What is going on, everybody? We've got some breaking news in the rideshare industry. Lyft has decided to cut rates in multiple cities. Now they're rolling out these rate cuts and they've been doing so over the last couple of days. They're really hitting drivers hard, and these rate cuts are crazy. I mean, they're not just a small cut. They're literally slashing the mileage rates nearly in half in a lot of places, and they're getting down to as low as like 30 cents per mile in some markets. Now, this is really going to have a huge impact on Lyft drivers, and a lot of people out there are calling for Lyft drivers to either switch platforms or to go on a strike. This could be really bad for Lyft. So in the past, Lyft has justified cutting rates per mileage by saying that most rides that actually take place are within cities, they're within dense urban areas where drivers spend a lot of time in traffic. So they're doing longer rides time-wise, but they're not actually driving as far of a distance. So they might be picking someone up from work downtown and dropping them off somewhere else downtown. And they've used this to justify their mileage rate cuts because at the same time, they've also bumped up the price per minute, but they've done so in very small margins. So in places where you might be getting paid something like 19 cents per minute, they might bump that up to like 25 cents per minute. Very small proportionately compared to an almost 50% slash in the mileage rates in some areas. Now, a lot of drivers definitely expected more rate cuts to happen. I mean, Lyft has said that they plan on doing so because they're now a public company. They now have to look out for their shareholders. They now have to worry about their profit margin, and they're losing money every quarter. So what they have to do right now is continue to cut rates to try and become profitable. But the question is if they continue to cut rates, will they put themselves in a position where they're no longer able to find new drivers? It's really yet to be determined if Lyft is going to be able to continue to pull in enough drivers to meet the needs of their passengers. Now, this was already an issue that Lyft had when they were paying drivers much better rates. They've been struggling to keep drivers on the platform since inception. I mean, as far back as a few years ago, the turnover rate for drivers was higher than 50%. That means that most drivers, when they started driving for Lyft, would be off of the platform within a year. That was over 50% of drivers. So as we go forward and rates cut, it's going to be harder to even keep drivers on for that long of a period. Now, Lyft has also made changes to their referral program, paying out less per referrals and saying that they're going to bring this to an end shortly. So if they're not incentivizing people to sign up on the platform and they're not paying as much to drivers who are on the platform, the question is, will they continue to make money as a business, or will Lyft go out of business here? It's very possible that this is actually like the last nail in the coffin that puts Lyft out of business, unless they're able to somehow get regulations to get lifted in areas where they're looking to implement self-driving vehicles and get that technology up to speed quickly enough to actually implement it. There's no way that they're going to be able to have enough cars on the road filled with drivers at this low of rates. It's really just not possible in a lot of markets. At this point, Lyft is literally asking drivers to potentially not even run a profit while they're driving for Lyft. So with a rate of something like 33 cents a mile, 30 cents a mile, drivers are making less than the standard deduction rate. So the IRS has come up with this rate that every driver should take per mile where they're driving, and that's 58 cents per mile. That's kind of an estimate of the depreciation that you put on your vehicle, plus the gas expenses for every mile that you're driving. And so if you're only making 25, 30 cents per mile, then you're making back about half of what you're paying out in expenses. Now, some people might say that 58 cents per mile is a little bit high. And yes, if you have an older vehicle, 58 cents per mile is high. But Lyft requires that you drive a relatively new vehicle. So even if you're at like kind of the back end of that spectrum, like the older vehicles that Lyft still allows on the platform, you're still going to be depreciating at least 25 cents per mile. I mean, maybe less if you have a really good low maintenance fuel efficient car, but it's really tough to get lower than that mark. So they're really asking drivers to get paid an amount per mile that's less than what they're depreciating their vehicle, and then paying them a little bit extra for their time. But really the time compensation is just not what people want. It's not what they're looking for here. And this seems to be following the model that food delivery companies like DoorDash have taken, where they pay out a very small amount, like $1 per delivery to delivery drivers, and then the rest of their pay is in tips. So Lyft is kind of hoping here that drivers are just going to accept that they're making most of their money from tips, and actually they're not really getting paid much to be out there on the road. So I don't think drivers are going to put up with this. I think there will be a small amount of drivers that keep driving because they don't know what else to do, and they're kind of, stuck in this position for whatever reason. But it's not going to be healthy for drivers. It's going to have a ton of ramifications for people that choose to stay on the platform, as far as earnings, as far as being able to make ends meet, and as far as just mental health and health. If you're trying to be out there on the road while you're not making that much money, it can take a toll on you. So we'll see exactly where this goes, what this leads to, what the news updates are, how many cities Lyft ends up rolling out cuts like this in, and if they're able to continue servicing passengers paying wages like this, and what impact it has if drivers actually decide to strike, if most people hop over to the Uber platform. We'll really just have to wait and see how this pans out. If you enjoyed this video, go ahead and hit that like button, and make sure to subscribe to the channel for more gig economy news and updates.